TPS video other than the two cartoons, but I'll walk you through them if you can't see them in detail. Hey guys, it's Matt. The first part of this video is about what makes us different. Those that can see, I think the Not Nilk knows what makes us different, maybe even more than we do. I'd like to thank Wayne for two incredible graphics. I'll show you the other in a few minutes, but this is true classic comic book style. I'll zoom in on it in a minute so you can see it a little bit better. In the middle, once again, the reality gives itself away. No real world could keep pulling this off. And over on the right, when I say off, it looks like I've gone insane, or something's happened to me. Related to the comment of yesterday, a comment of yesterday said, all by itself, nothing else, you're about to lose your mind. A commenter said yesterday. And then I agreed. I said, you're absolutely right. So it shows the insanity on the right. And then I say, oh, Not Nilk. Wait till I show you. The other one is better than this one. A true classic comic book style. Thank you, Wayne. The first part of this is something we talk about like once a year. What makes us different? Why do we see certain things? There's other ways of putting it. Why have we built some degree of armor? Why does the barium sweep go right through us? Why have we dropped veils? However you want to put it, what makes us different? And the discouraging news is we haven't done a good job at all getting very close, unless we just, these two things we've come up with, to me, it's like fifth grade things, unless we just hit on it, and there isn't anything more to it than that. So why do we see certain things and Aunt Ginny doesn't, or your best friend doesn't? And over all the years, all the times we've discussed this, including all the comments that have come back, we have two things. One is we all share an exceptional degree of creativity or imagination. It does have to do with maybe a creative power, that sort of thing. But that's not great. I mean, that doesn't, your best friend probably played with action figures when he was a kid, or drew or colored or painted, and he doesn't see what we see in terms of the interpretation on the news and things like that. So, of course, there's more family members that kind of are finding out, about this channel. Let's just put it like that. And if they ever were to come across, and let's see what Matt does here, they would be saying to themselves, it's not what you guys can see. What you have in common is you're all insane. We're at the point where this seems insane, not just to regular people, what we talk about. This is insane even to people inside our own, quote, truth research community where we are. The segmentation and the further segmentation keeps happening inside groups. It's very similar to something that, C.S. Lewis alluded to in the preface on The Great Divorce. The second thing we have in common, I've alluded to this several times very briefly over many years, we had a period of alone time or downtime or quiet time in our lives. And this relates to what we're going to talk about when they implemented in 2020 the look downs, look down the wells. The look downs is a symptom of being shy. It's the look downs. They implemented the look downs, so we were by ourselves in our homes, that sort of thing. They have to be, in my opinion, where this is going to go, they have to be very careful when isolating us like that, because one of the things that allow many of us to change our opinion on the world or how things work, or to quote the old term, we just love it, wake up, is a period of quiet time, alone time, or at least when the busyness and the endless distractions of life, at least for a 4 or 5 or 6 week period, come to an end. For example, many people over the years have said to me, hey, I got laid off, or I started to drive state to state, and I just started to see things differently. If you're in your job, 5 days a week, you get to the weekend, you don't want to think intensely about the metaphysics of reality or your place in the universe. You just want to have a few beers. And the whole Not Nilk world and universe is so perfectly planned to maintain the busyness. Most people have followed its lead and created too much busyness, so they get through the work week. Then the kids have all sorts of things to do in the weekend. Then there's the mother-in-law coming on, and the mother-in-law yapping, and then you got this, and is your mother coming tonight? And all the busyness of society. It's evil genius how it has set up a situation where nobody has that 4 to 6 weeks. I don't know what, Matt, is that the right timing? It might be just 1 week for someone. For another, it may be 6 months. For another, it may be Brad Pitt 7 years in Tibet. You got to go to 7 years in that horrible place to understand what the world really is. But it is a factor. Okay, it absolutely is a factor, this downtime. The whole society and culture is set up to rob us of this downtime. There's no doubt in my mind. And everybody that set up each component part, of course, isn't in on it. They just are serving overall not milk without knowing what they're doing. So you have the modern life busyness, but we talked a few months ago, remember, about where the holidays are placed. Just enough time between the holidays so you don't crack, or just when you need a day off, you're ready to crack and just go off to 7 years into bed. It'll give you that holiday. It'll throw you that little bone with the half-eaten meat on the bone. Oh, we get Memorial Day. Oh, we get a day off. Or some employers now give 2 days because Thanksgiving's a Thursday, and then you get the Friday off. Oh my God, we get the Friday off. You get the Friday off too? It's so perfectly placed. And then the sporting events and the sporting seasons. And when the Olympics come, just a few weeks ago, you have the Super Bowl. All right, millions of people around the Philadelphia area and around big cities all over the United States are ready to, jump or something because they don't have their precious football anymore. The precious Commodus presentation of the Coliseum is no longer on Sundays. What are they going to do? Then the next week after that, you have the Super Bowl of NASCAR. Now that kicks off the season. You have Super Bowl next to Super Bowl. That starts the NASCAR season. And I know if anybody's screaming and throwing rubber duckies, yes, I don't know, maybe only 30% of football fans are pretty hardcore NASCAR fans. But it's just, and I know also if anybody's screaming that, Matt, they're not going to put NASCAR up against the NFL and Super Bowl, they wouldn't get any ratings. Yeah, I know all that. Maybe this isn't the best example, but how all the sporting events and even the Olympics and things like that just flow, and all of a sudden 1 year goes by into the next, and a decade goes by, and 20 years goes by, 30, and then you wake up in that scene from, what was it, Dr. Sleep, when you just have a few days left, and the cat comes into your room. The cat knows. Dr. Sleep, by the way, is a very interesting movie as a follow-up to The Shining. It's nothing like The Shining, but they tie together nicely. I really enjoyed Dr. Matt, this isn't a movie review. Get back to it. Sorry. The cat, one of the most amazing scenes. It's a nursing home, I guess, or a hospice. The cat knows the night the people are going to die. It's an incredible scene, especially if you're a cat lover. The cat jumps up and sits at the edge of the bed, and the old people there know. And why the heck am I talking about this? Well, okay, you get to that point in your life, the cat's about to come in the room, and society has been so perfectly crafted, all from not just sporting events, that's one of 1,000 things that it does in its evil genius ways. And you get to the end of your life and you go, I didn't figure out a damn thing about anything. And it's probably too damn late once the cat jumps up on the end of the bed. Oh, shit. The cat's on the end of the bed. Orderly, nurse, get YouTube on. Do you think I can binge the Manly P. Hall lectures all night long before I die? This cat's too predictive. I only have till morning. Get the Manly P. Hall lectures back to back to back to back. Maybe I can jam it in and figure out life in the 12 hours I have left. No, you need to do it over like 20 years. It takes a long time. And 20 years, 30, 40 years, it doesn't even matter if the not nil keeps you busy week to week, day to day, hour to hour. I'm like, I'm going to take a vacation, and people choose like some foreign location or Cabo San Lucas, and they get down there and some pickpocket thief steals their paperwork and they're in the damn embassy. Though I got to be able to get back. We got to be able to get back. I got a big presentation at work. We can't be down here stuck in Cabo San Lucas. Well, it takes 10 days to get the new passports. All this shit piles up. All this shit that makes our lives busy. It's all by design, and it all could have been done away with probably 30 years ago. Most of it could have been done away with 40 years ago. Almost everything could have been done away with 10 years ago. But what does it do? It keeps adding busyness. My favorite example, Real ID. Real ID has been pushed back like I don't know how many times. I'm re-recording this section because I looked it up. I think it now says, and again, I looked very briefly, I glanced at a website. Don't take my word, guys, if you're flying or something like this. It said May of 2025. Again, I don't know where I just found this information. But Real ID should have been in place by now. Federal Real ID. Matt, what is the purpose of Federal Real ID in lieu of a state driver's license? There is none. It's the 9th level of Metroid. Every time I get that wrong, someone's like, Matt, there's not 9 levels of Metroid, and you're not even quoting Jarhead right. It doesn't matter. I'm going to quote it my own way now. That's what I like to say. Then what happens when you get there? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What is the purpose of Real ID, Matt? A federal system of identification. In terms of practical, what we would really need it for, if everybody was working for the common good, nothing. Of course, it uses it for its sinister means, but there is no reason for it. And it's not just to create busyness in your life, of course, but that's a nice little tertiary effect. So I go to the damn DMV. It's not, if it was crystal clear on how to get the federal Real ID, it's just, I don't know, some sort of a stamp they put on your state driver's license. I don't know what it is. I would have just done it. But of course, it's not clear. I mean, the one thing when you go to get a driver's license renewal, if anybody was working for the common good, any manager at any level would say, look, we want to make it crystal clear what people have to do if they want to upgrade, because they're going to have to eventually to fly this federal Real ID. You might still be able to use a passport, but it wasn't clear a year ago when I went in to renew my Pennsylvania driver's license. In other words, the only thing they should have got right is, here's what you need to do to renew your Pennsylvania driver's license. If you want the federal Real ID upgrade, you need to bring this, and go to this line. It wasn't clear. So I was like, well, screw it. I'm not probably going to fly anywhere anyway. If we need to make our way out of country, if they go back to the look downs, it's a symptom of being shy. The look down, if they go back to look downs and we have to make our way offshore or overseas, we'll just hire the Spartacus, the Silesian pirates. Will come with empty oil tankers, and we can huddle down in the hull like the Chinese family that came to stay with Danny Glover in Lethal Weapon 4. Is that with Butters? Yeah, that was the one with Butters. Now, Chris Rock has many obnoxious characters he's played over many decades. The most obnoxious was Butters in Lethal Weapon 4. If you have copies of it, destroy your DVD tonight. Sorry, the theme was, or is, what makes us different? And I'm going to address the rubber ducky throwers because we're missing the big one. Yeah, over the years, we're looking for just very surface level things, even imagination and creativity to a degree. It's of the body or of the frontal lobes or the conscious mind. Matt, it's not creativity, imagination, the ability to have 5 weeks of downtime where the knot's just like not hanging all over your back. You know what makes us different? It's the spiritual side, Matt. You jackass. And we didn't go here for a long time. We're like, call it what you want. There's a lot of different titles and tags. Old souls, ready to graduate. Higher selves are ready to pull its incarnations out of these types of 3D, quote, games, as Tony puts it. See, it's the spiritual side, Matt. Stop looking for really surface level things like, do you have a smartphone? I don't have a smartphone. Do you have a smart TV? That's what we did. We looked for these. That is so surface level. At the spiritual level, you start to separate from reality, and it starts to break down and look ridiculous, or potentially two different realities come from the screen. Where in Tony's reality, it's completely understandable how a V'ger is on the other side of the Oort cloud. And just think how far it is to, if your car broke down, if you had to walk and get eggs and milk, if you had to walk to that place, how far it would be. Then the V'ger is billions and billions of times farther than that walk to get bread and milk. Billions of times farther. Trillions potentially. Now, Matt, it's not, because there ain't nothing up there anyway. You're right. Sorry, but let's not stray. To Tony, this makes perfect sense. It can be pointing its dish back and getting its signal right to Houston, and all the electromagnetic static of the whole world, that signal can come in and Houston can get its little beeps. and then it actually plays Pong. There's somebody in Houston that plays Pong against V'ger, and it takes 47 years for each move to go back and forth, but they still continue to play. That makes sense to Tony. But he's not, Matt, he's dumb or he's brainwashed. No, on the ship of fools, in that reality, that makes sense. We're wrong. If it doesn't make sense to us, we're wrong. But we've separated from reality. Most likely the reason we can see is not what blood type are you, Rh negative, or it has nothing to do with it. To me, it's very clear at this point. It's an old soul thing. It's a ready to graduate thing. It's a spiritual thing. And the reality just starts to melt almost around us. Melt, me being the same thing in our case, as become an absolute clown show. That's why most people cannot be woken up. You can't show them anything because they're not ready. Again, we don't have the right terminology, but as long as we get the general gist, I don't think it matters. Just call them. It's not berating or it's not very negative. A young soul. Okay, is that you understand? We just have to use some sort of a term here. If you could see, I guess spiritually, what you're dealing with. If I'm talking to my friend Tony about V'ger, that's just a term from Star Trek I, the original movie. It's Voyager. Voyager 1 and 2. They're both playing Pong. It's just a man sitting next to a man, and why? He's smart. I'm smart. He's of the flesh. I'm of the flesh. He went to my high school. He went to Penn State with me. Well, I should be, if I can see it, he can see it. But if you could see spiritually what you're dealing with, what you might see, again, the young soul thing, it's something that's just not ready. That from a spiritual perspective, it would be like, well, yeah, I should be able to pull this feather across the table with this little rope. That's what it appears like on the surface, two men sitting next to each other. But if you could see spiritually, it's not a feather. It's a gigantic freight train with hundreds of thousands of cars filled with coal and plastic knickknacks that came from Foxconn factories in China. See, if you could see what it really, see, that's spiritually, you can't pull that. You could sit there all day. You can't pull that freight train with that string. That's where he is spiritually. His higher self won't let him wake up to anything that you're saying. Matt, he ain't nothing but an NPC. Come on, man. Okay, he could be an NPC that is completely linked to this world or on the frequency radio station or download. Of course, you're not going to be able to get through anything to them. They serve this place if that classification of individual exists. But okay, he could be. But I'm saying there are still a lot of real people. We're not going to go tap them on the shoulder and say, hey, let me show you this about the 7-Eleven job application. There's real people still are not going to wake up to it because they came here. They actually have to do the work, and people think it's over multiple lifetimes or different incarnations of higher self happening simultaneously. It doesn't matter. That person, if it's as real as you, it's not ready. It needs to do the work. It's like somebody trying to pull somebody out of the gym the first day they go over. This scrawny kid, he graduates college, he was kicked around and bullied by the fraternities the whole time and got sand kicked into his face the first time he ever went to see the ocean, like those Charles Atlas cartoons that used to be on the back of comic books for years. He says, I'm finally going to go into the gym. And he has a sense it could take years and years to train and to drink that protein shakes and all that. And he goes into the gym. The first day, he can barely lift the bar, bench press the bar. His arms are shaking. And somebody says, "Come on, let's get out of here. Let's get out of this gym. You're ready to leave with me." The person, in the spiritual equivalent, the person's fit. The muscles. You can see come on, let's go. Like, well, he ain't ready. He just got there. He's struggling with the bar. His arms are shaking. His elbows are clanking together. He's got to spend time in that gym. That's what this reality is. It's a Michael Spinks to Mike Tyson ass kicking. For us to come and kick ass, for us to get our ass kicked. That's the point. You're not Mike Tyson in this reality. The George Bush creatures are. You're Michael Spinks. You ain't Van Damme here. The George Soros creatures and those that go into the little arch that says "Weaving spiders come not here," they're Van Damme. You get the kicks, and it's the not milk life. Instead of treated, we get tricked. Instead of kisses, we get Van Damme kicks. You're not Steven Seagal in Hard to Kill. They are. That's Kissinger. We're here to get our asses kicked. You're not Schwarzenegger in Commando. Wrong. You're Sally, hanging off the edge. That's right, Matrix. You said you'd kill me last. I lied. That's us. So what? It's the point of being here. That's blame your higher self. Tony's like, please, Matt, don't start the higher self rant again. Tony sends me an email. All right, he says, Matt, don't give these people the wrong impression. He's like, your higher self is you, Matt. You're ranting against it like you were just about to. What did he use in his email to me? He was like, your hand. Is your hand part of you, Matt? Is your hand running around the table by itself? Like, what was that thing in the Addams Family? The thing or whatever? The hand by itself? No, the hand is part of you. You are part of higher self. It is part of you. You're not independent hand like the thing in Addams Family and the hand's crying out, get me out of this box. No, it's all one, he stresses to me. He says, you screw that up again, Matt. I ain't giving you any more information, you son of a beach. All that being said, let me back up and say this. The Not Nilk knows this, in my opinion, what I'm about to say. There are real people here, how many of us there are, ready to say graduate, ready to have reality melt away, to dive off the back of the ship of fools and separate from it. But it's becoming very adept and expert at keeping those people from being able to graduate. If you see what I'm saying, through what we talked about earlier, the busyness, the endless tasks, just getting the mindset of getting from one vacation to the next, or one holiday to the next, or one sports season to the next. I think it is doing a pretty good job keeping real people who are ready to graduate from graduating. It's like somebody it's in early June and they're in high school, and in this example, they don't even realize they're a senior. The Not Nilk has convinced them they're just coming in as a freshman, and I got 4 more years, and then they're big seniors, but then they're getting beaten up by sophomores. That's what the Not Nilk is doing. It is keeping people, actually, in my opinion, ready to graduate from graduating. So the two things I said earlier aren't about what allows someone to graduate on the surface level. That's not completely thrown out because of the young soul, old soul thing. If a person that's ready to graduate, or an old soul, maybe if they just were to get that 4 weeks of downtime, or they have the Bill Murray Stripes experience, lost their job, lost the girlfriend, lost the wife, whatever, and they just go off somewhere and sit at a beach by themselves, and they might say that for the first time in my life, things are quiet because I had 2 sisters. They were my sisters, and my brothers, and my family was like that family from 16 Candles, with grandparents coming and going, and all that. Like, first time in my life, I have quiet time. That allows an old soul to realize certain things. So even because it's more of the old soul, young soul thing, and again, don't love the terminology, it still doesn't mean the first few points talked about, the creativity, the imagination. That's still at play. The Not Nilk can't allow those factors to ever emerge in an old soul. That's what it's becoming so damn good at. In the example of a minute ago, where it's the senior who's like somehow brainwashed by Not Nilk to think they're a freshman, they're not even looking to graduate, is the point, no matter how you want to put it. But it might be worse than that. The real souls here, the Not Nilk's trying to transform them into radio. The Cuba Gooding Jr. character. I like the movie. I think it's a cute little movie, Radio, with Ed Harris. Radio has some issues. It's not quite like Forrest Gump. Let's just say he has a learning disability. I don't know how to put it. And I don't understand, honestly, just as a sidetrack, how he keeps coming back into the 11th grade, as they allowed him to keep coming back into the high school to help out with the football team. You should have him come back into the 5th grade or something. 11th grade, I'm thinking back, I had some sort of chemistry class that I struggled with. What's that shit called? Valence points about electrons and shit that want to jump from other electrons. I didn't understand none of it. And I'm pretty damn smart. 8-semester dean's list at Penn State. And I struggled with my high school chemistry class. Well, that tells you what a step down Penn State is. Okay. But radio keeps coming back to the 11th grade. He didn't have a chance in hell of passing the 11th grade. Have him keep coming back to the 5th grade. Whatever. He just came out to help Ed Harris with the football team. But see, it's evolving real spirits into radio is the point here. They are satisfied being one grade away from graduation. Their radio is completely thrilled that he kept coming back to the 11th grade. Real souls here that Not Nilk has them completely satisfied, and they feel lucky to keep coming back into the 11th grade, never even looking to spiritually graduate. Matt, are you not saying radio? Coach Jones? I want both. Coach. You're not saying that's a damn truth drop. It certainly wouldn't be an outright truth drop with a director or writer or producer knowing. Could it be a retrocausality language embedded truth drop? Maybe, but I doubt it. I'm not going there. I'm just using it as my example here. Coach Jones. Which brings us to Wayne's second incredible drawing cartoon. Remember a few months ago, people sent some submissions in where you would draw this gigantic monster machine, which is Not Nilk, all of society and culture around us, with its intention to distract and lead us down the wrong path. And it's trying to get up in our business constantly so we don't do what we're really supposed to do in life, don't fulfill our mission here. Well, this has to be the best. Look, and it's all, Bill would be so proud. It's all done by hand. I mean, it says Not Nilk. I'll focus in on it. Someone say that ain't nothing but AI art. That ain't nothing but Midjourney. I don't think so. Look, we know it's done by hand. It's incredible, and I should have shown this weeks ago, and I apologize to Wayne for taking this long. And I'll focus in on it in a second. Just one little man in the middle of a ring or a pen, all by himself. And all this infrastructure built all around. And it says, all of this for me? Yeah. If there's one lesson about this reality that's probably more important to real people than any others, it's this one. And we're going to do 15 minutes using this incredible drawing. Thank you, Wayne. One little tiny person, man or woman, in this, I don't know, what's surrounding it? Buildings, it's all by himself or herself. And I had to focus in to start. We'll pan up. And this incredible infrastructure and people around us. And my friend Tony thinks this is it's just the way a modern culture develops. It's all for the best, says God spell. Someone has to be repressed. It's all for the best. No, it's artificial. It's artificial. It's designed to isolate and to get you thinking in so many things you have to do, and you have to do what it says is the definition of success. And you have to go into your deathbed doing what it said you should be doing in life and following its cue cards and reading from its script. And it's so pervasive, the outer ring, and it gets closer and closer to us, and its infrastructure is massive. And people think, what is the new Matrix? It has a similar scene to the original Matrix with a different version of Agent Smith looking out the window. He's looking down over a complex city street of San Francisco or New York with people coming and going and cars and traffic jams and skyscrapers. And he says something like, all of this, it's so perfect, or he says something like, it's so intricate and perfect, it can't possibly be real. That's right. Basically, it's a truth drop. It's so massive, and it is all for us. What does your inner knowing tell you? Ask it. Am I just making that up? Not Nilk. It's got the numbers in here. He's got the 33s in here. I am really sorry it took this long to show you this, guys. Going to start again from the single man or woman in the ring by him or herself. Pan up a little bit more to the left. And this entire infrastructure that's around us, for the most part now, is there for us, but there to distract and to keep us busy so we don't drop baggage, and so we don't do what we're supposed to do in this life. Sure, it would have evolved over time and gotten more complex if there wasn't a sinister not-nilk system behind the outer layer of the screen. We still might have invented trains. There might have still been Wright brothers trying to fly off bridges with things, little pieces welded together with wings, and eventually we might have come up with the airplane. I mean, okay, it would get more complicated. But the not-nilk, it knows, I guess, how to evolve a society, number one, for maximum complication, maximum distraction, maximum busyness. Greg, the other day, what was he talking? He's got, I'm not going to say anything about a medical issue or anything he's having, but he has to go through this process. One doctor called, you got to go and get this review. It's horse shit. And then he has to go and get this prescription filled. And like, well, they want me to do all this red tape, and it's actually, considering what they could be putting him through, I was saying, Greg, you're actually getting off pretty easy. But it's all this complicated mess whenever we stick our head above water, and it's crafted this way. And look what it says here, all this around us just for a single spirit, a single soul, to keep it distracted and busy and never quiet. And this impossible complexity shown in Wayne's drawing, as it gets so complicated, especially with the person highlighted by themselves, if you back up far enough, it gets simpler. All this complexity, think of the entire scope, again, of all of society and culture, and one little tiny grain of sand is all the content produced in streaming services. Netflix, Hulu, Prime, HBO Max, Paramount Network. What was the one we discovered just yesterday? Fox something as a streaming service where you can still see Roseanne, by the way, if anybody is interested in that. There's been now up to 5 people that have paid the money to see Roseanne. I'm missing a streaming service or two. There's Shudder. Is that for horror? The amount of content is unnatural. It's almost impossible. The amount of content that's been produced defies logic. But all the content where it wants your attention, where you turn on to streaming services or your smart TV or your phone, that's just one little sliver inside this massive infrastructure of all of society and culture. And as you back up from it, it gets simpler and simpler. You have, as a real person, how many are here like us? We don't know. Okay? 144,000. I don't want to hear that number anymore. We don't know how many people are real. But you can be isolated in that ring by yourself, which is a best case scenario in this situation, in this life with this massive infrastructure around us. Or you could be a real person in the middle of this mess. You could be a real person in the middle, and they're then serving it. You're either not serving it, or you're serving it, or you're an NPC and designed to serve it. Your whole spark of soul itself is generated somehow like locally. You will always be on its radio station and its frequency. So this utter complexity makes things that's presented in this cartoon makes things more simple. You can isolate from it, which is what this brave person in the middle of the circle is doing. You could be a real person and you're in the middle of it. You're serving it, and you're not in on it. If that real person is over in that mess on the left, there's a DMV office with drivers and motor vehicles on the left. They're serving it, and most serving it, even at the George Bush creature level, they're not in on it. They don't know how they serve the whole. They're not even aware of the screen level reality, even the way we would be. Now, again, I have to apologize every time. There's a tiny group here that knows more about reality than we do. All right, they trace their roots to the burnt down Library of Alexandria, but for the most part, even like I've said, I'll say it a million times, even the buffoons you see on TV like Melvin P, they know 95% less, I'm pretty sure, than you would think they do. All right, let's take a moment, summarize the basics. We go in a lot of different areas. I get distracted with things like radio and the 11th grade. It's so simple. Your inner knowing will tell you it's this simple. And then there's one more part to talk about that is relevant to this conversation. So you are a real person. I don't think you'd be listening to this if you weren't a real person. We'll talk about what that is in a second. Unless, of course, unless you're one of these trolls that that monitors what Matt's putting out, so we can just make videos about it because we're probably paid to do so. Or you're some Chernobyl or 3 Mile Island Illuminati control center that monitors the whereabouts, comings and goings of real people and what they do and say. Unless you're one of these freaks, you're a real person, or you wouldn't be interested in this sort of message, jokes aside. Now, what does that mean? To me, it's very simple. It just means that there's a spiritual part of you, if you're a real person. This is my opinion. There's a part of you that's not here. You're larger than this place. You transcend this place. Tony calls it higher self, and putting different aspects of itself simultaneously into different games or different times. And however you want to see it, you can make it simple. You're not bound to this place. You're not born and will die of this place. You transcend it. To me, that's basically all we need to know. We're real people. There could be a lot of other types here that are more local to this place, that are more stuck here, that are more doomed here. Okay, forget that. How many real people are there? We don't know. We don't know. Who cares? You're real. I know I'm real. Maybe it is a limited solipsism, but a pure solipsism, probably no. Fine. It doesn't matter. All of everything around us, all the complexity, everything that comes through society and culture, everything that comes from the screen, not your immediate heart-centered reality bubble with your dog sitting on your lap or your wife bringing you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Everything outside of that immediate bubble is the not milk, is the screen. It shows you how incredibly important and powerful you are because it is all built for you, meaning to distract you or to keep you from doing certain things. Now, that could be very evil. That could be very sinister. Somebody else, like Tony, might say, that's just part of the game here. They're just playing a role. They're doing a movie like Star Wars needs an asshole. It needs a bad guy. Darth Vader kind of is important to Star Wars. If you paid your money, you pay your money in 1977, you get your giant popcorn, extra butter. Put some more mozzarella on that. Put some more extra butter on that. Extra motherfucker, says Radio Raheem. You sit down in your seat, dun 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 dun, dun, and it's just Luke carrying freaking water around Tatooine, and then just R2D2 buzzing around behind him, and it's like 20 minutes, 50 minutes. And it's still the same guy in this white, dirty thing carrying buckets of water around Tatooine. There ain't no bad guy. There ain't no love interest. Who would watch? If you're there by yourself, you'd look around to see if anybody was in the rows behind you. Think, what the hell is this? See, I don't know, man. I heard it was good, too. I see shit. Just some guy carrying water. I heard it was good, too. There's something missing. I don't know, man. I can't put my finger on it either. It seems like it should be good. I heard it was... I got it. There's no bad guy. Ain't nothing for him to do except carry water around this desert planet. This place needs a bad guy. It needs assholes. It's so simple. No, Matt, this reality was hijacked. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. It was hijacked. First grade truthers. It was hijacked. It's just supposed to be us under fruit trees. Won't say any more. It was hijacked. No, it's designed this way. And this all leads to the final part, the one thing we haven't discussed yet, which when you back up far enough and look back at it, it's so simple. If it has us at death, if the big, nasty wolf, the Saturn moon matrix is coming to recycle you right back and you got no chance, and I've said this a million times, you got to navigate some grid in the dark and you're screwed. We're so screwed at death. If it has us at death so completely, what's all this for in life? Why? I've said it millions of times. It's kind of important. It's kind of important revelation. I'm going to say it a million more times. If you're ready to graduate. What's it working so hard for in life with this sort of infrastructure? All for basically one simple goal. It starts with the distraction. So somebody's on that bed in their hospice and the cat jumps up and they go, shit, I'm getting a sense I didn't do the right things, and getting that extra speedboat was not as great of a win as I thought it was. What's it working so hard for in life if it has us so securely at death? It's a little bit of a problem for those that will just say we're so screwed at death, or they never navigate out, or You know, I'm sorry, it doesn't line up with common sense. It would have its feet up here. It would be just playing miniature golf all day. Well, shouldn't we be getting up in their business and doing all this stuff and making all this endless content and creating fake events and creating ridiculous scenarios via politics or country to country relationships and all the other 10,000 things we have juggling all at the same time? Why are we doing all this if they're so screwed and will recycle back through our Death Star moon at death? That's a good point. We got them so securely. They're coming back exactly the way we want, because these assholes, yeah, they're the masters of life and death. That makes sense. The George Bush creatures are the masters of death too. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. Like they can barely, make a convincing speech here without us laughing, but they're going to be the masters of death. The only possibility is there's a green room of some kind where you're not quite dead. And all you got to do is make sure you become fully kaput. There could be a little green room. You dead. You need to. I'm going to make sure I'm dead. That's the only thing that I will bring back into this conversation. They're not going to be masters of death. These idiots. Those that talk about, that we're really screwed at death or some sort of recycle. By the way, if in case I forget for this to come out, we likely or potentially manifest at death what we expect. You expect traps and tricks. Probably just brought that on yourself. We're creators of this reality in some way. So in terms of what some people put forth, again, this Saturn moon matrix, David Icke has talked about it. It's been around our community for a long time. 10, 12 or more years. But those that make the presentations, I don't understand how it connects. So you have the minions of the screen, I would say, the minions of Not Nilk Systems, from Alec Baldwin through handlers like Ellen, up through George Bush and Henry Kissinger, and all these, okay, there's a lot of minions here. Even Lady Gaga, okay. Spirit cooking and all that, okay. Now, we see the role that they're playing here, and it's somewhat comical to us at this point. Sometimes we want to cry, sometimes we want to laugh. Okay, but who's, they're relatively limited beings. I mean, it's a spiritual clown show to us. Who's the all-powerful beings then? Not all-powerful, but who's the powerful beings that then have this mastery of death that could recycle a real person like you or me back into a moon? And then, who's that? Who did that? Because it's not, most of the truthers that put this forth, it's not just, you can't just say Satan, Satan, Satan. They don't go there. They're like, well, is it the same minions we just talked about? Like we just talked about a handler like Ellen or Oprah or Tony Blair, the ex-prime minister. These clowns are masters of death, or some netherworld green room between life and death where they fool you into thinking you're dead. Doesn't it seem like that would take some real power to screw with you as you're going into the moment of death? Who set that up? They don't ever talk about that. If there's a grid we have to navigate through, who set that up? Somebody related to the original Kaiser Wilhelm, who was cousins with King George III, who was cousins with the Romanovs. They're the same people set that up. They transcend into it. See, if there's any chance it's all connected, it would have to be a green room, some little netherworld where they convince you you're dead, but you're not quite dead. Either way, it's a joke. They're not all powerful. These people here are a joke. So they're not going to be the masters of death. If you put that forth, well, who designed some incredible, powerful thing, some Saturn moon matrix that's a billions of times more powerful than anything we possibly can imagine in terms of a technology here on Earth? It's never mentioned. Well, how can you talk about it if you're not going to say where it came from? It's bizarre to me. We don't have, if you're a real person, and you probably are if you're listening to this, I don't think we have anything to worry about. As long as you have your head right. How they manifest it is getting you to believe it. And then you manifest it. That's the only possible way they could pull it off. Am I missing something here? Until David Icke, that was the first person I've heard talked about Saturn moon matrix. And yes, I'm skeptical of anybody that sells out Wembley Stadium. I'm gonna call Wembley right now and see if we can put some tickets together using the same model that Guns N' Roses just came up with VIP backstage passes and bullshit memberships. I'm gonna use the Guns N' Roses model. I'm gonna set myself up at Wembley. I mean, maybe like 5 of you guys would come. It'd be empty. It'd be crickets. I'm skeptical. Like Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting, David Icke, you suspect that you could sell out Wimbledon. Well, he sold out Wembley, and the overflow tickets went into Wimbledon. They had little screens set up, maybe at the center court in Wimbledon. I'm suspect. Okay, until you come out and say, look, I talk about this Saturday Moon Matrix thing, but everybody here needs to keep on the table that they might be getting you to manifest it, and be careful. You might be bringing it on yourself. Very, very suspect unless that message comes along with the first message. Talk about a picture being worth 1,000 words. I just took a few minutes to look at the picture for a few minutes in silence to see how to wrap this up. It's worth 1,000 words, worth 1,000,000 words. So the person is isolated there, and it's so simple. It's all we can do. So it's not like the Not Milk has that person pinned. The way I see it, that person's created a realm of separation with their own wall. They've isolated themselves as much as possible from this grimy, greasy infrastructure and handlers like Ellen DeGenerate and people trying to get up in. See, somebody can't get up in his business or her business who's standing in the center. Now, that person doesn't have to be perfect, in my opinion. From time to time, it might have to walk through its little door that it's created. It's made a pen for itself, but by design to keep the Not Milk out. It's like keeping Freddy Krueger out. It might have to climb up one of the slimy passages or climb up one of the tentacles to get its driver's license renewed or whatever else it has to participate in its society or in its township or in its county or in its state, and it's just one level of bureaucracy built on top of the other. It might have to climb into its and engage with the slimy tentacles from time to time, but then he comes back and tries to isolate himself or his family or her family's in that ring, and you can't constantly isolate. And that's not saying you shouldn't interact with real people and you shouldn't go have a beer with a friend or go to a picnic or that's the way I live my life is bad. Okay, it's unhealthy and it needs to change. The isolation. I'm just kind of feel that I said when the 2020 started and they put us into severe look down, the symptom of shyness, look down. They put us all into look down. I think I'm good. I'm going to go as long as I can on this, like 7 days a week, as hard as I can on this, until we have some real results in terms of understanding what's going on, and more importantly, than understanding ourselves. And you know what? We have them now. And Matt, we have them now. You should be not breaking your own rules. You should be getting out into public life, just meaning like walk down the street a little bit more. I agree. It's almost like I'm using almost as an excuse that I have to keep going 7 days a week because I'm afraid to go out and start a life again. Okay, Matt, your issues are not important right now. This isn't a counseling session with thousands of people listening to your dumb ass. Finish the video. I hear you. We can be our own counselor. But we have got the answers, and it is incredibly simple at this point. When I say it's 2 sentences or maybe 3 or 4 sentences, it is that simple. And it's just a different way of looking at the same thing. And this cartoon or this animation or drawing really, really helped today. The main video's over. If anybody wants to just stick around for a few more minutes, shoot the shit. This is getting long. People do have things to do. I said, every time I say public life or something, I think of that scene in Silence of the Lambs. And I always laughed to myself because this would be, has anybody ever used it as a pickup line? Because everybody knows it from the Silence of the Lamb. Clarice, it would be something to know or get to know you in private life. It would be something to date you, or wherever Dr. Lecter puts it to Clarice. Something. It would be something to know you in private life, Clarice. So, Matt, has anybody used that to approach, let's say, the traditional, in this case, a man to a woman at wherever they see that, just after a brief conversation? Oh, you buying apples too? You come here often to the apple stand? You know what? What's your name? Suzanne? Suzanne, it must be something to get to know you in private life. And her recognizing that from the Silence of the Lambs, I figured this is the worst pickup line of all time. I just thought it was funny. I thought I'd share it with you. And like the days I'm not making videos guys. I'm still going 7 days a week. People will send me things I'm reviewing or links and things like that. What's the next video going to be? Trying to write the book at the same time. But now there's another thing that I've had to do for several months now, because in the comments I have to go and look for demon troll comments. These demons show up, and they're like demons. They really are. These troll comments, you don't see them. Like, Matt, I haven't seen many troll comments because I have to spend 10-minute segments after the video's put down. Then I come back a few hours later and then one or two more times and look for these horrible troll comments. I remove the comment, of course, and I remove the person permanently from the channel. And it's just really horrible how I have to keep going back and doing this. And I guess one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this at the end of this video, at this point I have because of the work I've had to put in doing this over several months or more, I have no tolerance for comments that don't try to help us move forward. Now, there's one thing when it's an obvious troll demon. I mean, just nasty, trying to, whatever, they want to engage. What would a demon want me to do? A demon would want me to engage with it on its level. Therefore, as much as I may want to, in terms of how I could give whoever put the comment forth or whatever troll channel an intellectual beatdown, I'm not going to engage with it because I'm smart enough to know that's what a demon would want. A demon wants to be engaged, of course. Okay, we have to at least practice the basics. But again, I don't have any tolerance for a comment that doesn't try to move us forward. Of course, I can take criticism, but it's the way it's done. I have eliminated people with just one snarky comment after another, and it's a pattern, and they're never going to help us move forward. They don't care enough to not say, Matt, listen, this part I agree with, but here's where you're going wrong, and explaining where I'm going wrong. Do you think I would remove that comment? Of course not. Do you think I would remove that person from the channel? But then you see the name, and it's like 4 or 5 videos, a snarky comment, or a underhanded compliment, or a jab, Matt, that was pretty smart, but only a dummy would, just like snarky. I don't have any patience for it. And the people that really enjoy the comments, they're people that come here for the comments, and the community of the comments is much or more than the video. Even to respect them, I'm going to just get rid of these people. I never place an ad. I don't care about the subscriber count. Disagree all you want. Of course, that's fine. But if it's just constant snarkiness, constant little jabs, trying to be cute, you're not helping us move forward per the topic that's being discussed. This isn't a movie review channel. The stakes here and the types of things we talk about, the stakes could not be higher. We're in a spiritual battle. The stakes could not be higher. We have to be extremely serious in the comments to try to help us all move forward. The other thing, I've never mentioned this, it drives me crazy, and I remove every single one, and it doesn't happen that much anymore. Someone will leave a link, and that's it. Now, YouTube, we used to have to approve all that, and for years now, somebody can just leave a link, and that's it. And it does blow my mind. Like I'm going to allow a link in the comment. So I spent all this time putting notes together. Wayne spent countless hours doing the animations here and the drawings, thinking it through, making mistakes, having to re-record sections, and then I want somebody to just, halfway down to have somebody click a link and go away from the video. Now, if somebody leaves a link and says why it's directly related to what we're talking about, of course, I leave those links. But very few people do that. I saw one just a day or two, and it surprised me. It was like, Matt, here's a link, and here's like how it's related to what you're talking about. Okay, great. But people leave the links, and no, I'm not going to remove you from the channel, but links by themselves, of course. Why would I allow that? Why would the person think to post a link and not even a few words based on after why they're posting the link? Bizarro stuff. Okay, final thing regarding comments, and thanks for those that stuck with me in this video. A perennial complaint of mine. You've heard this one before. Matt, you're returning to this too much. You're being repetitive here. And I'll say it again, like a high school teacher. So my high school teacher where we read Macbeth, he had to read Macbeth every year to the class. Matt, you're returning to the screen here. I serve a certain level of truth or to move them forward. If you're ready to graduate, graduate. Some people are old guards that are graduates. They still like to come here for a few reasons. One, the community of it, or reading the comments, or every so often I will try to go to the outer edge of the envelope, whatever that meant in Top Gun, to push the envelope further, to put something out there that's very wacky, that maybe is a little bit of an insight on how reality works, or something. The Steffers might have a breakthrough regarding the emerald green paired with the magenta, and so they hang around here, the Old Guard and the Jedis, for that reason, or even for a few laughs. And some people just to be in a community, or in the case of my presentation, to hear someone that thinks like they do when the rest of the world thinks they're crazy. That by itself is a sanity Linus blanket to many people. There are reasons that even if you are ready to graduate or more advanced than me in several areas, I still hope you would come back, even if it's just for yesterday to laugh at Guns N' Roses' expense. People are like, Matt, you're being repetitive. And first off, all of reality, we've got it down to a few sentences. It's going to be repetitive. I'm not catering to you who's saying that. The person saying, Matt, you're being repetitive. Is this channel just for your level? I always point out to them, no, it's trying to move 5th grade truthers up through 9th grade, then up through 12th grade, and up through college graduate level. And many graduates have come to me and said, I'm out. I'm done. That's fine. They don't need the sense of community. They don't need the laughs or the dumb jokes. They don't need to hear somebody rational, the only rational person in their life other than themselves that sees the world the way they do, like I may see the world the way they do. Some have moved on. I don't want you to go anywhere, but the people that are like, say I'm being repetitive, it's a spiritual battle, and the points being made, if you agree with the points, they're incredibly important to our spiritual nature. This is very serious stuff. It should be repetitive. When the stakes are this high, it just blows my mind. So please, don't tell me I'm being repetitive. It means if you're so confident, the person that would leave me a snarky comment like that you're ready to graduate, go away and graduate. Thanks for listening.